Welcome back to the morning show right here on ETV. Thank you so much for staying with us. We're going to be wrapping up the show in a couple of minutes. But before we get to that, on the African continent, South Africa remains one of the most visited countries in all of Africa. The most popular. In 2020, in actual fact, 3.8 million people, tourists, were making their way to South Africa, making it the most popular country to visit in that particular year. But now, joining us this morning to unpack how that's looked since 2020, as we've seen tourism started to make a decline, globally so, and then get to a resurgence as we get back into the years post-COVID. Tiaan Oberholzer is the director of Touchdown Group, joins us this morning to help us unpack what is the state of South African tourism as we get into 2024. Tiaan, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the morning show.
Hi, Fosi. Thank you so much for having me, and good morning to all your viewers.
It's great to be chatting to you about something that I think a lot of us are realizing is slowly but surely starting to go back to normal. But let's start it off in the background. You know, what was the state of South African tourism just off the back of COVID-19, so that we've got a better picture of where we are in the world post 2020.
So obviously, everyone knows that COVID was detrimental to our industry, and it took us a couple of years to recover. I think also from the tourist perspective, it gave local tourists a lot more opportunity to visit some places that were out of touch due to pricing. What the industry's done in the meantime is we've implemented something called SADC rates, so that South Africans and neighboring countries can travel to places at a more affordable price compared to the internationals. But it's very exciting for us now because we're welcoming especially Americans who spend more per capita than any other tourists while visiting. I think we almost had 400,000 of them arriving last year, and the direct flights, especially into Cape Town, has substantially helped those numbers. And I think it's a great opportunity for our economy and to spur development in specifically rural areas.
I mean, you're talking about, you know, the SADC rates and versus the international, so maybe we want to double click briefly into it. Maybe give us an overview of the current balance between domestic and international tourism in South Africa, because I mean, we know that South Africans enjoying South Africa is also a big part, as much as we wanting to get the international tourism to pick up. How has that shifted now during the pandemic and post-pandemic?
I think a lot of South Africans who are fortunate enough to travel overseas didn't have that luxury. So we started to explore, you know, different parts of our country that we thought, you know, didn't exist. As I said always, South Africa is the most beautiful country on earth. We've got 9 different climates, from Durban beaches through to the Garden Route, to the interior Karoo, to Cape Town, and beautiful cities like Johannesburg. So I think a lot of the local tourists also realize that we can go into these regions and still have a great time. So the SADC rates thing came about to attract local tourists into specific regions like the Kruger National Park, who are very dominant into the national market, and therefore we needed to attract local tourists to travel as well. And those rates are so attractive that you can almost sometimes get 90% off compared to what the international pays. I always say the South African economy, and especially the tourist sector, is driven by local tourism, and I like to view the internationals as a cherry on top.
Yeah, I actually want to speak a little bit more about local tourism. I think for a lot of people, when we're thinking about traveling locally, we always just feel like, oh my goodness, it's going to require a lot, it's going to cost a lot, oh my goodness, it feels like it's stretching out. And I think a lot of people, they don't get to explore so much of South Africa as a result of that. I was that person at some point, really not traveling much within South Africa, because I've always perceived that it's this absolutely lavish thing to do. Are we finding that over the years, especially post-COVID, after especially the confinement and having to stay indoors, that South Africans are warming up to the idea of traveling within South Africa and getting to enjoy more of their country? Are we finding that there's a lot of movement within the different provinces, or maybe even into their own province, and just being able to check out different things that we have in the nation?
I think definitely pre-COVID, South Africans had a perception that tourism and travel was this luxury thing, and only for the elite. So basically, what's then had happened in turn is there's many properties and resorts and affordable properties that have popped up in the meantime, from 3-star all the way to 5-star. And I think any geographical area, such as in Johannesburg, the Northwest is a stone's throw away. The Western Cape, going to the West Coast National Park, to a property that I love there called Shark Bay. And then also, I would say what South Africans don't realize is it's not that far to go out of the city, and you're really exploring and seeing things that feel a lot further than what they are.
Yeah, that is very true. I, for one, have loved many of the places that you've mentioned there, including Hart Bay. But let's talk about, some of the different factors that play a role. There's actually a tweet that I saw yesterday where it's an international blogger who was talking about everyone thinks the best cities for young entrepreneurs are Miami, Dubai, London. They're all wrong. And he goes on to say one city surpasses them all, and he's speaking about Cape Town. And of course, we've seen the global influx of different people coming into Cape Town. Let's talk about how the economy, such as currency fluctuations, income levels, influence travel preferences, among different things, how that influences especially our international travelers into South Africa.
So obviously the rand has taken a bit of a hit over let's say the last 24 months, and the cost of living crisis abroad, as much as we're experiencing it here in South Africa. I mean, in the UK you pay £10 for a beer, which is about 200 rand or 250 rand. So for a lot of UK travelers a lot of UK travelers, it's almost cheaper to come live in South Africa than actually just live in the UK. So Cape Town is a very unique city in that regard, that it's got daily accessible flights. It's on a European time zone, so very easy for digital nomads to work remotely. And you see it definitely, as I live in Cape Town, you see it definitely on things like the Promenade, the CBD. Small businesses are definitely thriving off this influx of internationals coming to work here and live here and really explore the uniqueness of our country. And everyone speaks about, and I think I also saw the same tweets that you saw. I think everyone talks about every time is the hospitality of South Africans, how welcoming we are, and what a great place we get to call home.
Yeah, absolutely. Such a great place we get to go home. Let's talk a little bit more about South Africa in light of, success of tourism as we're getting ready to round up our time together. Maybe you've got some success stories or strategies, innovative strategies that have been implemented within the SA tourism sector that have really contributed to this growth that we're now seeing.
I think that the days of where people thought hotel investment or let's say tourism investment took a lot of money. You can start up a small tourism business by just yourself showing your local community. We've seen great examples of that on Vilakazi Street, for example, in Soweto, where a lot of people have been involved in that regard. Also, in terms of resorts popping out from caravan parks close to Hartbeespoort called Season Sports, Leisure and Spa, where it was about 50 beds 10 years ago, and it's about 700 now. And we welcome people to invest in the sector, to understand that it's not this, you need hundreds of millions of rands, anything from 10,000 rand to 1.8 million rand. You can get involved in a property investment that gives you great returns. And the nice thing about leisure is it's a nice thing to experience for yourself, but it's a great thing if you can also make money off it.
Yeah, man, this sounds absolutely fantastic. And I mean, it's getting exciting. We're getting into the holiday season, so we're hoping to see more South Africans start to make some time of touring their own country over this coming holiday season. But thank you so much for joining us, Tiaan, and for unpacking what it looks like, tourism in South Africa post-COVID, which is really exciting to hear that it's on the rise. So it's great to be chatting to you.
Thank you, Kosi. Appreciate it.
What a great chat with Tiaan Oberholzer, who's the director of Touchdown Group, and talking about what South Africa's post-COVID-19 recovery in the international tourism is looking like. And it's really exciting to see that the international guests are making their way down to South Africa. But what's more important is an invitation for you and I to get to enjoy our very own country. I actually remember there was an ad that used to play years ago that used to say, it's your country, enjoy it. So hopefully that you will make a time to go with your family. It doesn't have to be 100,000 rand worth of travel. From as little as what you have, you can get to enjoy your very own country, even your own backyard. Stay with us.